Coming up next on Arizona Horizon, Russian hackers target 21 states during last year's election. We'll discuss the security of Arizona's voting systems. Also tonight, the national impact of last night's special congressional election in Georgia. And we'll look at a binational effort to address immigration issues at the border. Those stories next on Arizona Horizon.
Arizona Horizon is made possible by contributions from the Friends of Arizona PBS, members of your PBS station. Thank you.
Good evening and welcome to Arizona Horizon. I'm Ted Simons. The Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security met with the Senate Intelligence Committee today to discuss Russian attempts to hack into local election systems during the 2016 election. The DHS Secretary was specifically asked about an incident in Gila County in which a hacker compromised the account of a county employee. Arizona's Secretary of State's office said the hacker did not get access to voter databases. But how safe is our election system? Here now is Jamie Winterton, Director of Strategy for ASU's Global Security Initiative. Welcome to Arizona Horizon. Good to have you here.
Good to be here. Thanks.
How safe is our election system?
Our election system certainly has some problems. There are some vulnerabilities, as Jay Johnson pointed out today, in almost all of the states. A lot of our election system equipment is very old. In some counties, election officials are trying to get used parts from eBay to try to put these systems together and keep them running.
Wow. DHS saying 21 states likely targeted by Russian hackers happened before the election. Do we know what the nature of these hacks were?
We don't know the motivation behind the attacks. There were different kinds of attacks. Some of them, like the one in Arizona, targeted the voter registration database. This isn't where votes are counted, but this is the database that controls who gets to go to the polls and who gets to cast their vote. We know that there were other attacks in other states that relied more on spear phishing. So attacks where they got an email that was composed by someone pretending to be someone they weren't to try to get malicious code into the system.
Is that spear phishing?
Yes.
Okay. So basically, if you get something from someone and you open it, you've been speared.
If it's not for somebody that you weren't expecting it from,
yes.
Or if I'm pretending to be, Ted Simons at PBS, and
yes.
I send a note to someone just to try to get them to click on a link, that would be spear phishing.
That's why everyone ignores me, apparently.
Yeah.
DHS is saying no hacks involving vote counting. You agree with that?
We hope that that's true. Some of these systems don't have ways for us to go back and verify. A formal audit has never been done. And that's what's concerning. So many of these elections are decided by a razor-thin margin.
Oh, now, and DHS again today said it was as someone was rattling the doorknob, and for the most part, like a burglar, and couldn't get in. But a small number did make it in past the door, but not much further. You going with that analogy as well?
We can hope that that's true.
Yeah.
We're not sure. They may have come inside the house and wandered around and checked things out and left. They may have taken a few things. We didn't see any huge disparities in votes. We didn't see any huge people showing up to the voting booth and their names weren't on the list. But like I said, a lot of these things are so close that even small efforts would change something.
How would you know if any manipulation had occurred? I mean, is it a process of elimination? I mean, can you point to something and say, that's it right there? How do you know?
That's a great question, and it depends on the system. So there are so many different systems in play, it's very hard to do this national audit, to go in and say, these are the rules, these are the things to look for. It's very vague, and I think we need to come up with a national system to say, here's how we understand our voting, here are the basic rules that states have to conform. States should be able to own their own voting systems and say, all right, well, that's the federal level of security that's been recommended, but we'd like to go above and beyond. That should include some type of audit system.
I was going to say, in researching this, I've noticed that a lot of states don't want the feds messing with their election system. We're talking a little bit of, tribalism going on here. I mean,
right.
you got to have some cooperation, though, don't you?
It would certainly help. Information sharing has been a really big issue with DHS. They're trying to get states to share information. They're trying to get companies to share information as well. But a lot of these groups feel like if I tell you what the problems are in my system, then I'm a bigger target. But then that keeps you from being able to say, well, that helps me understand the threat better, so let's both build resilience together.
And DHS today, they said that they don't know which states were targeted. Well, they're not sure which states were targeted, and if they were sure which of these 21 states were actually targeted more than the other, they wouldn't say. And the report said that there were some election officials in these 21 states. They don't even know that they were targeted as yet. It sounds like cross purposes here. This does not sound like any way to run an airline.
21 states sounds like a very specific number if you're then going to say we don't know which states they are. So it sounds
well, they're not letting loose that information.
Sure.
But is that wise?
They need to talk to the election officials in the states. People need to know what's going on. And then I do think we need more transparency. I mean, really, our election systems are based on trust. The fact that you can walk into a voting booth, cast a vote, and feel that it's going to be tabulated correctly. And then we all live with the results because we have faith in that system. If that's compromised, then we lead ourselves to greater voter disenfranchisement, possible social unrest. There are a lot of problems.
Which
here.
is, you mentioned earlier, not sure about the reasoning behind the attack. Many are saying the Russians did this to sow discord and to have folks lose faith in the election process. That's a real concern, isn't it?
Absolutely. If we can't believe in our democracy, then what's the point of going to vote?
So I'm an elections official in Arizona. All things considered, you know the software, you know how things work, you know what's vulnerable and what's not. What are you telling me in terms of just making it better?
That you need to get a team in there of white hat hackers to go through and really go through the system and understand where your vulnerabilities are. The issue with the voter registration database in Arizona was a SQL injection attack. And SQL is the way that you would, as a human, interact with a database on a server. Now, that can be hijacked by putting some code in there that's malicious. It's something that shouldn't happen, though. We understand SQL injection attacks. We know how they happen. We should be able to go through our code and understand and remove those. So we need a really trained team of experts to go through and say, here are your problems. We need to fix these before the election in 2018.
Last question. Is it just a matter of when, as opposed to if, voter results will be tampered with in one way, shape, or form by one hack or another?
I think we still have some control over this. I think that if we put in the right kinds of resources into this and take care of our election systems, they badly need to be upgraded. I think we could forestall an issue.
Forestall it?
Yes.
And perhaps never have to worry about it?
We can hope.
We can hope. Good to have you here. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much.
Coming up on Arizona Horizon, the impact of last night's special congressional election in Georgia.
Hi, I'm Paula Kruger. I hear from so many of you that watching great British dramas like Downton Abbey, Sherlock, and Call the Midwife is a wonderful escape from the stresses of daily life. You've told me they transport you to another time and place. Please, donate to this PBS station to keep these stories available for you and everyone, now and for generations to come. Support great drama. Support this PBS station.
Republican Karen Handel won yesterday's special election for Georgia's 6th district, a race that was expected to be close, but in the end was a 4 percentage point win for the Republican candidate. That makes the GOP 4 for 4 in special elections this year. Joining us to talk about the impact of yesterday's vote is public opinion analyst Mike O'Neill with O'Neill Associates. Good to have you here. Good to see you again. Hi. Thoughts on this congressional vote in Georgia? There's so many different ways to look at this. Yeah. How are you seeing it?
Let me give you both of them. And let me start out by telling what I said before election night. I said, no matter who wins, I guarantee you that the results will be overinterpreted. There's two possible spins on this, and I think they're both correct. One is that there have been 4 elections since the November election, and the Democrats have beat the spread in every one, most of them by a whopping amount. Point number 2 is they haven't won a single one of them. I think that the results of this, the impact of this, will actually be much greater on what happens with health care than it will be in predicting the 2018 election. I see the Republicans get emboldened and saying, you know, we got license to do what we want.
I was going to say this was considered a de facto referendum on health care, and you agree with that?
Yeah, on health care, on Donald Trump. I mean, Donald Trump was all over this.
Well, I was going to say it definitely seemed like a referendum on the president, but it also seemed a bit of a referendum on Trump care, Ryan care, whatever you want to call it, because as you mentioned, the Republicans now feel strong enough to go forward with these changes.
Well, I don't think it was Trump care per se, because as you've seen the polls on Trump care, it's enormously unpopular. Now, we haven't seen the Senate version yet. Maybe they'll try to resurrect that as being something different. But the House version was polling at 17% approve. So they've got to pretend that they got some more and better there all of a sudden. Even Donald Trump distanced himself from his own
He
bill.
did, but we're having reports that the Senate version might be even more draconian than the House version. So I don't know if they're paying attention to those numbers. The district itself, though, this was a conservative district in Georgia, correct?
Conservative but highly educated. So it's the kind of district that the Democrats, given that they have taken over the college-educated vote, could see a reasonable basis for doing better in. And remember, yeah, it was a 4-point loss. It was a loss, but the incumbent Republican in there who left won by 22 points. So, you know, it was a pretty good-sized beat of the spread.
And yet Hillary Clinton lost to Donald Trump by an even smaller margin. So what do you take out of all this?
Yeah, I think you don't read too much into even one. You look at the spread in 4 elections and you say the Democrats did way better than expected in every single one, yet they lost every single. Obviously, at some point they got to start winning. But when you look at 365 districts, these were pretty solid Republican districts. I think the betting right now, and it is way, way too early to say, but most of the betting suggests the Democrats take the House in 2018. But
really?
It's way too early to
Holy smokes.
It's sort of if the election were held today kind of thing.
24 seats just like that, huh?
Yeah. But I'm not predicting that because 18 months is an enormous period.
Well, you are more optimistic than a lot of Democrats because after this vote last night, lots of Democrats were coming out and they're basically saying either move the party left or lose again.
I don't know about move the left. I think a clear message. It's not so much left versus center as it is being against Donald Trump is not enough. I think they have to articulate what they're for, and they might have to dump Ms. Pelosi. As being a symbol of the past.
Well, it was interesting during this election, while the Democratic candidate was basically running against Donald Trump, barely mentioned his opponent by name. It was Trump this, Trump that. The Republicans all of a sudden decided they weren't going to go after him. They're going to start mentioning Nancy Pelosi, and they think that worked.
Well, look, the Republicans have a leadership. The top 3 people, you add them together, they're 200 years old. You know, there's a point all of a sudden where they look like the party of the past, and age has something to do with that.
The president tweeted out, of course, the president can't leave well enough alone. He got the win. He tweeted out that the Democrats would do better if they got together with Republicans instead of being obstructionists. Does he have a point in the sense that Democrats right now are seen as the party of complaining?
Well, they are complaining, but they haven't been allowed into the game. You look at health care, heck, the Republicans haven't even seen the bill.
Right.
You know, you got the Republican part. How can you participate unless you're allowed into the game? I think that's a...
But you mentioned yourself, you can't just be against Donald Trump. It didn't work for Hillary Clinton, at least electorally. It didn't work, Electoral College. It didn't work for Mr. Ossoff here. I mean, you're going to have to be for something. You got to find a parade to get behind.
Yeah, I mean, I had an analyst suggest to me, you know, what this country needs now is a new centrist party, and I immediately responded, you realize that would be a party that would include John McCain and Hillary Clinton both.
Yes. So, you're saying just don't overanalyze this, bottom line.
Bottom line, yeah. This was the biggest thing going on this week. In a month or two, I think it's yesterday's.
But you know, again, in the sports world, close is really great for the fans because it was a good game.
Yep.
But someone's got to win,
Absolutely.
and someone's got to lose. And if you're 0 for 4, you're losing. You better find a new way to win,
Like
don't you?
I said, there's two interpretations. That's one of them, and that's true.
Okay, so if you were advising Democrats, what would you tell them?
Let's talk about message. Let's talk about who are we going to have to lead us, and what are we for? Not just that we're against Donald Trump, but what is our agenda?
What if you were advising Republicans? What would you tell them?
Wow. How do you constrain Donald Trump? I think you pointed out, he's often his own worst enemy. He will snatch victory. You know what I think? I think they should expedite this investigation and not obstruct, because it's either going to get worse for them or it's going to get over. And frankly, the worst thing for the Republicans would not be for Donald Trump to go. It would be for a long, drawn-out death by 1,000 cuts.
I tell you what, though, you're 4 for 4 in elections. You're not going to be in too big a hurry to change much of anything, are you?
Absolutely true. You're going to be emboldened with respect to policy, and that's the short-term impact. Yep.
All right, Mike, good stuff. Good to have you here. Thanks for joining us.
Take care.
The Kino Border Initiative is a binational effort designed to help with the humanitarian crisis at the U.S.-Mexico border. The organization also offers services to migrants, education on immigration issues, and they conduct research to help find solutions.
Certainly in recent months, we've been seeing an increase in the number of people being deported to Nogales, Sonora, and they come really with the same experience as we've been seeing ever since we've been here. People separated from their children, from their spouses, some people having experienced abuses in the desert or in the streets of Nogales, Sonora, people lost, disoriented, not knowing what to do. And the Kino Border Initiative is there for these men, women, and children in these very difficult moments. And we're there to provide them humanitarian assistance, we're there to provide them a meal, clothing, pastoral support, but most of all to remind them that they matter and that their human dignity matters to us and it's God-given.
I served in Afghanistan and Iraq. I'd received a few injuries there. They didn't give me no chance to appeal on my case, to prove anything to the United States. They just told me you have an order to be deported. There's no arguing. You're going to Mexico.
My parents took me to the U.S. when I was 3 years old. So I grew up there, and I grew up thinking all my life that that was my country, right? At least that's the feeling that you get in here, that it's your country. You know what hurts me the most is thinking you spend a whole lifetime building, planting to collect the harvest. And the harvest that I started planting love and raising my children to be loving and respectful. And what hurts me is not to think that I'm going to be able to be part of that harvest, seeing them with their children, or seeing the bellies of my daughter-in-law swelling up with their child, or being there to nurse them after they give birth.
Here now to talk more about the Keno Border Initiative is Executive Director Reverend Sean Carroll. Welcome to Arizona Horizon. Good to have you here.
Good to be here, Ted. Thank you.
We saw your mission statement there, a church without frontiers, and the idea that this really is life and death. Talk to us about that.
It absolutely is. These are men and women and children who are migrating in order to seek a better life. They're fleeing violence. They have no legal way to be reunited with their family members, and so they make that painful and difficult decision to cross the border without documents. And so they are in the desert. Many die there. Or if they don't die there, they're abused, they're robbed, they're assaulted, and sometimes suffer abuses as well at the hands of U.S. authorities. And so by the time they get to us, they've been through a lot, and that's a big reason why our mission is so critical on the border, is to respond to the humanitarian needs of these people.
When did you start this Keno Border Initiative, and was there one incident or something that told you, this is what I got to do?
Well, it was 2006, and the issue is contentious now, but it was really contentious then, and especially here in Arizona, because so many migrants were migrating into the state. And also there were marches in LA and Chicago and other cities. And so we as Jesuits and other Catholic organizations wondered if could we do something to help. And so through a process of interviewing various people over a 1.5-year time period, we came up with this proposal for a binational work focused on humanitarian aid, but also focused on education and research and advocacy.
Also focused on the family, as we saw in your statement there, the idea of keeping these families together and watching out for these families, that's big.
Absolutely. It's an enormous priority for, I'd say, the religious community, for the Catholic Church as well, and we certainly share in that mission because we see family members separated every day, and we see the harm it does to these people. And so we want to advocate so that people who are members of the same family under certain conditions can be reunited in a more expedited fashion.
As far as what you've seen change over the years, talk about what you saw when you first started, what you're seeing now.
So when we first started, so I'll just talk about our center where we provide food, clothing, pastoral support. We would serve typically 180 to 200 people in the morning and maybe 80 to 100, no, maybe 100, 125 people in the afternoon. Last year, we would be serving an average of 80 people in the morning and 40 in the afternoon. And so the numbers have shifted, but also over the years, we've seen more Central Americans fleeing violence. We've seen more unaccompanied women migrating as well. We've seen many people from indigenous communities in southern Mexico. They're from rural areas. They can't earn enough money to survive, frankly. And so they make that perilous and difficult journey north. And so those are some of the changes that I've seen.
How do you navigate, and how have you navigated the political waters here regarding immigration?
Well, it's a challenge, but our mission is really clear. It's to be a humanizing presence and to foster binational solidarity on this issue of migration. We're willing to talk to anybody as long as we can listen to one another's positions. And I'd say one of the most powerful impacts that we've had in that area is hosting what we call immersion experiences. And so these are groups that come from Arizona and from other states in the Union to serve, to dialogue, especially with the migrants that we serve, and to reflect on the experience. When people leave us almost to a person, they take the people that they've spoken with in their hearts and in their minds, and because this issue's become humanized for them, and that's what makes the difference, I think. And then we build on that experience and encourage them to tell the story of their experience, to advocate, and through that, and to volunteer, and through that process to create change little by little.
And the folks that you service down there, they do look different when they leave the center, don't they?
Absolutely, and it's an experience I continue to have even almost 8.5 years later. So the difference between when they're lined up outside and that experience of deportation and all that implies weighing on them, separation from family, a dream for a better life seemingly dashed, and yet they enter our facility and everything we do and the way we do it, as I said in the video, tells them that they matter. And so much so that when they leave, they do look different. We can't solve other problems, but we can communicate to them that they matter to us.
It's basic human dignity, what you're talking about.
Basic human dignity, and it makes a huge difference for them.
What have you learned since starting the initiative, since taking on this responsibility, doing these works? What have you learned?
I've learned about the strength of the human spirit. And I think one of the most powerful experiences I've had in this work is what the migrants have taught me about what it means to love your family, what it means to have a dream, what it means to seek a better life, and to do what's necessary in order to have a dignified way of life, and to not lose hope. I think that's what they teach me the most. They don't lose, they get discouraged, absolutely, but they don't lose hope. They trust that God is with them and feel that in the deepest part of their beings. And that's what they communicate to me. And I'm a priest, and yet I need to learn that lesson sometimes and hear that message. And they continue to teach that lesson to me, and that has a powerful impact on my life.
Reverend Sean Carroll, the Kino Border Initiative, continued good work. Thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it.
Thanks so much, Ted.
And Thursday on Arizona Horizon, it's the anniversary of the passage of Title IX. We'll talk about the impact of the historic law on women's sports, and we'll hear from the first woman to receive a college scholarship to play football. Those stories Thursday on Arizona Horizon. That is it for now. I'm Ted Simons. Thank you so much for joining us. You have a great evening.
Arizona Horizon is made possible by contributions from the Friends of Arizona PBS, members of your PBS station. Thank you.